And wherever you're at in the U.S. and around the world, welcome to Baseball Outside the Box. I'm your host, Pete Caliendo. Thanks for joining us all. Appreciate it. We're over now 110 countries, and I really want to thank you. And you know what? If you do me one favor, that would really help. Remember, this is the show that loves to interview baseball's greatest minds who love to challenge the status quo, and that's what's nice. We need to challenge things at times, and we've got a great guest today. But I just want you to do me a favor before we start, folks. Just go to YouTube, Peter Caliendo, and subscribe. That just helps me out, get the show out. That's the main thing. I just want to get it out. It's all about education. Hey, guess what? Assistant hitting coach at the major league level for the Colorado Rockies, a great young man, Nic Wilson. I call him young because I know him a lot older than he is. So, Nic, man, I appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much.
Pete, how you doing, man? I appreciate you for having me on the show and look forward to talking here.
Hey, and full disclosure, folks, I want to thank Nic because we got a recommendation from Jerry Weinstein, and then I also sent a message to Clint Hurdle, and they recommended Nic. Nic's going to be coming with us. What a great event this is going to be! Korean, our 4th annual ISG Baseball Korea Coaches Conference. Nic's going to be mainly focusing on the hitting aspects. Kellen Lee with the Seattle Mariners mental training coach will be with us also. What a great group. It's our 4th annual. Last year we had over 108 coaches. This is going to go all over Korea, so we're hoping we get more than 108 this year. So, Nic, hey, let's just start with that. Thank you so much for joining ISG. We really appreciate it. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, you mentioned 2 of my mentors there, Jerry Weinstein. Had an opportunity to work for that guy back in 2019 in the Cape Cod Summer League. And eventually we were, colleagues together with the Rockies. And then obviously with Hurdle, spent this past year in the big leagues with him, with the Rockies. He, always shares so much knowledge. He's been such a good mentor for me as a coordinator and as a big league hitting coach this past year.
I'll tell you what, it does not get better than that. I've been very, very lucky I was an independent ball for many years, but to get you've worked with them. I know I've worked with Jerry in certain clinics, and around the world, and Clint I've gotten to know pretty good. I've known Clint a long time, and not personally, but I tell you what, I'm not sure you can't get any better than those 2 guys.
Yeah. I mean, just, the things that they've forgotten about the game are things that I hope to one day learn. So, I always know there's going to be those little gems that come out in conversation. And they definitely have done a great job pointing me in the right direction thus far in my career and, helping me out when I need the push.
Yeah, great mentors. And, since we're on that, and I want to get into your career too, since you were young. Both of them. Give us an idea, just one thing that maybe just stuck with you that really influenced you in the coaching aspect from Jerry and from Clint. Something
From
that
each
really
of them.
just you.
Yeah. Jerry, I'd say my first memory, my first interaction, we're in the Cape Summer League that year, and I'd never met the guy before. I've heard all these stories about the great Jerry Weinstein, and you don't know what to expect till you're in there, and it's the first day, and we're gonna meet, and we're gonna talk about our team personnel, and we're gonna talk about how we want to coach the boys and what we want our goals to be for the summer. I'm expecting a hour meeting, 45 minutes maybe, figuring that we'd cover all the bases within that. We spent about 6 hours in his house that day. Every I was dotted, every T was crossed. I mean, it was a different level of detail and attention to detail that I really have respected. And I was taken back from it at the time. I was a graduate assistant. I had just gotten into coaching, but my eyes were definitely opened up to a different level immediately. There was a different level of accountability. If I remember correctly, I think we had like 35 signs, and he's like, "You got to know all these tomorrow." And it was a challenge being his first base coach, but I got those things memorized, and we had a pretty good summer. We had a lot of players that have gone on to be pretty good in the league. And
I
then
bet
I
pretty
would say,
demanding, right? Pretty demanding. I mean, you can't get things wrong too much.
yeah, hey, why are you leaving the field to go get lunch? You need to bring a sandwich. We want to work through this. Um,
That's
and
great.
he showed me basically he showed me every job that you can work. I work kids camp for him. We're doing early work. Catchers are there at noon. Games at 7 that night. Those were some long days, but looking back on them, they were definitely worth it. Very rewarding, and I think, especially just selfishly from my perspective, I got everything that I could have imagined out of that summer. So that was my
Wow.
my summer with Jerry. Hurdle, a little bit different. I would say with Clint, we were first really around each other a lot 2 years ago, and it was right when I took over as our hitting coordinator. And at
Mhm.
that point in time, I was younger than I am currently, and experience was something that I didn't have at the time. Definitely a lot of ambition, um, definitely some creative ideas, but experience was something that I did not have. And Hurdle was somebody who was there for me, always on the phone, in person. He traveled around with me from affiliate to affiliate. Definitely opening my eyes to a different side of the game. As a coordinator, you aren't the player's immediate coach.
Mm.
You've got to think bigger than that. You've got to think on a different scale. You've got to think in terms of staff development. You've got to think in terms of, where are we going as an organization, and what do we need to be doing to take the steps to get to these places. Hurdle really helped me put that into perspective. Um, he made sure that, I was able to stay, organized and on task with my thoughts. And, ultimately, I think he made the transition from, being a low A hitting coach to a, coordinator for an organization. He made it a little more seamless than I think it could have been. And once again, it was another one of those things where just a ton of growth and, ton of experience was passed along.
Both of those guys remind me of some mentors I had. And, I'm thinking about Clint, just meeting him a few times, and then at the ABC, also sitting down for a little bit. And, I could see why he was successful. Okay, the baseball side, I'm sure he's got down pretty good. But the part about you would run through a wall for him or Jerry, right? I mean, as a player, I would think Clint, he's such a motivator. He's so positive, that anybody would just want to do 100% all the time for them. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah. Definitely very positive. Definitely able to connect. I think that's probably the word that I would lean on. Um,
Absolutely.
whether it be with our players from Latin countries, whether it be with the high school player. I mean, Hurdle was a high school draft pick. So
Yeah.
that experience he's lived directly. He talks so much about his experiences playing winter ball down in Venezuela and different other countries. Um, I saw him this past year connect with our Latin players like so naturally. It was amazing. I think we have a tendency to sometimes think that, age is one of the biggest factors in being able to connect and relationships with players. But, I think it truly is a skill. It's something that people can get better at. It's something that Hurdle definitely has. It's one of his superpowers. Um, and that guy is phenomenal when it comes to interaction, and that's something that I've tried to take from him along the way.
Great stuff, man. I remembered when you said something about Jerry and bringing your lunch. I worked for Jay Ward, who was in the old days with the Reds. He was a hitting coach at one time. Actually, with the Yankees, the big league hitting coach. We were in an independent ball together. He had a phrase. He said, "Unless somebody died somewhere in your family, you can't miss practice and you can't miss the game. I don't care any other reason, right? I mean, that's it. It's kind of like bring your lunch. Don't forget it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about you, because this is really, I wanted, for two reasons. One, obviously your background, but two, also let the Korean coaches know a little bit about you, but also the coaches around the world, because I think that's important. Where'd you grow up? Let's start with that. I think that's important.
Yeah, I'm from Decatur, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
It's a city 4 square miles just outside of Atlanta. I grew up, I would say, mostly a basketball guy. My dad was a college basketball coach growing up, so I spent a lot of time doing that. Got to high school, and I figured out I could hit a ball better than most people around, and
Yeah.
decided to pursue that in college. Um, my college years were kind of spent all over the country. I started at a 4-year school in New York, Hofstra University.
Hofstra.
Um, really great school, loved it academically. I don't think boys from the South necessarily love the snow.
Yeah.
I had a tough time with that. Ended up deciding to leave and going to junior college out in Arizona, where I got an opportunity to play every day for the first time. Junior college baseball is a complete different thing than Division 1, and it's an
Mhm.
experience that I'm glad I was able to get to live. um, I think it helps me today, from the standpoint of, you got to be creative with what you got, especially in junior college. And, we didn't have all of the resources, but, it's on you if you're going to get better and get out of that situation. That's something that I think I'm able to use today working for the Rockies. We don't have one of the biggest budgets. I don't think that's a secret to
No.
anyone. You've got to figure out solutions with what you have. And I definitely believe those years are something that we're able to lean on. I'm able to lean on a good amount right now. Finished my college years at Georgia State University. Ended up being drafted out of there by the Tampa Bay Rays. Pretty short career in affiliate ball, only a couple years. Go on, play indie ball. Um, Make the transition over to coaching after that. I'm a graduate assistant for a year. I was a volunteer assistant at Eastern Kentucky University also for a year. And then, at that point in time, I was hired by the Rockies and, started working in low A, transitioned to being our coordinator, and then eventually promoted to our
What,
major
what
league
was your
staff.
what was your main position, and also not only just your position, but in the minors, what was it tough in the minors? Was it difficult? What you said you played a couple years. What was the struggles you went through, and then you went to indie ball after that?
Hmm. Yeah, I was a first baseman. Senior year of college, third in the nation in homers, third in the nation in slugging percentage. I was a guy who needed to drive the ball to, get things done. Big power hitting right-hander, basically. Um, Got to affiliate ball there with Tampa Bay. First year in short season, pretty good year. Double-digit home runs in short season. um, Go to instructional league, have an off season, come back, and just not able to reproduce those same power numbers the second year. Um, at that point in time, it was like, well, there's not a lot of value, especially for a guy who's not like defense first. He's already a first baseman. There's not really a lot of position versatility there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Honestly, just didn't hit enough. Um, make it over to independent ball. I honestly had a pretty good year playing indie ball. I ended up winning an MVP, batting title, a home run title in the United Shores League. It's the first year of existence for that league at the time. Um, don't get signed back to an affiliate team. And, I think everybody's got a decision to make eventually. I think I was 27 at the time, and, I hadn't finished my undergraduate degree at Georgia State. So knowing I've got to go back and do that, interested in coaching at the time. So I decided to go ahead and make that move after 2 years of indie ball, finishing the undergraduate degree, and then eventually going and getting a graduate degree there.
Yeah, I tell you what, being in independent ball I was in indie ball for about 10 years. I saw a lot of guys just didn't want to give up, and I understand it, right? You want to try to make it back and get back in
Right.
affiliate and signed, and but sooner or later, you're right. You got to say, hey, what's my career going to be? Quickly, what as far as the wooden bat, did you have to make an adjustment, or you already used to using the wooden bat before you signed the pro contract?
I'd be lying if I said I knew anything about models. You're growing up, and I think this is probably a pretty common experience, but you get a wood bat over the summer, you're not really sure what model it is, but you got a
Right.
wood bat and you swing it some, and that was really my experience with wooden bats before professional baseball. Um, that's actually an area that I do care a lot about now with our players, and just educating guys, differences in models, how they're weighted, how to
Mm-hmm.
pick out what's good for you, what type of wood should you use.
Yeah.
I think all of that are things that I did not naturally know. I will say this though. I did play in a wood bat league in junior college, so I think that it was not as hard for me to find the sweet spot, maybe, because I'd used it a good amount. But um, if you were asking, did I know what I was doing? Not at all.
Hey, and I asked that because it being an indie
Yeah,
ball, I had a lot of players from NCAA Division One. I mean, big schools. We're talking about University of Miami,
right.
Texas. Some have not. In those days, it was in the '90s, so they didn't use wood bats. They weren't used to them, so they come to us, and it take them a while to adjust. The problem is in indie ball, as you know, we want to get guys to affiliate ball, but we also want to win.
Yeah,
And
play good.
yeah, if you couldn't make, you had 50 at bats and you're still not hitting, you're gone.
Right.
Uh, you got to find somebody else to do it because you need production. That's why I asked about the wooden bat.
Hmm.
Hey, you also mentioned your dad was a basketball coach. His influence in whether you played for him or not, I don't know, as far as baseball or basketball, his influence
Hmm.
on the coaching aspect. How much did that have that, why you wanted to get into coaching?
Yeah, 100%. So I did have the opportunity to play for my dad, high school basketball. Um, he
Oh,
was the head coach at
interesting.
Georgia State University until I was like 7 years old. Then he was fired, and he went back to high school basketball in our area. By the time that I'd gotten to high school, he's the high school coach in our city there. So I was blessed with the opportunity to play for him. I will say I learned a ton there just about how to organize practice and how to manage time and how to
Mm,
message to your team and how to, you know, basically how to build your group and coach them over the course of a season. I think that there are a lot of coaches who are pretty good at player development, but managing a team and coaching a season is a different skill. And I think that's something that transfers from sport to sport. The position, the technical, how to catch a ball, how to hit a ball, things, those are separate. You do need to know how to do that. But to be a good coach of a team, you've got to know how to manage a season, how to navigate a season, how to get guys through tough times, how to keep your group together when your group wants to pull apart, how to, get your guys to play for one another. And I think that was something that, was a superpower of my dad. His teams were very close. And he did a really good job of managing personalities. And I think that's something that I was able to learn, whether I thought I was learning it or not at the
right.
time. It's stuff that we talk about to this day. He's familiar with our personnel. I ask for advice when I need advice. He's been extremely helpful along the way.
Well, that's why mentors are so important, especially as young as you can get them, because the younger you are and you've got this influence like your dad. I mean, that really helps you shape, your coaching early on. Like you said, you don't even know it, but just by listening, you're gathering all this great information or watching how he does things. Um, wh- when did you know coaching was your calling? When did you say, "Hey, this is the time I got to do this. I love doing this."
Yeah. You know, I I don't think that while I was a player, I thought a lot about anything other than being a player. I would say that like that kind of focus, that kind of tunnel vision was probably one of the reasons why I was as successful as I was as a player, whatever that means. Um, I was very much plan B gets in the way of plan A guy.
Yeah.
But when I got to the end of playing and it's like, all right, let's evaluate, what are you good at? What do you like? What do you want to do? Um, I felt like there was so many lessons and things that I had learned later in my career. Um, I was the kid in professional baseball that like 90% of what we were being told I was learning. Um, I told you I spent a lot of time playing basketball. So, a lot of the fundamental, a lot of the skill work that kids were doing early in their career, um, I wasn't really around that.
Mm.
So it was important to me to be able to kind of share some of that information with guys. Just to, if you've got a passion and you've got some talent and you're willing to work, then I think you can be really good, especially if you can learn those things a little sooner in your career.
What do you love about coaching? What's your favorite thing?
Um, I said my favorite thing is being able to, connect with a player, talk with them about what it is that they want, and putting the pieces together as to how to get us there. Um, I don't think coaching is about what I want; it's about how to get the player where they want to be. Um, and I think that involves a lot of really honest conversation. After they set the direction, after we have a conversation about where it is we're headed with this thing, I like being an asset and I like sitting in that passenger seat of the car for sure.
Nice. And then you were assistant. No, you were the hitting coordinator, and that
Mhm.
takes a lot. I mean, we're talking about coordinating all the minor leagues hitting program, right? So that takes
Mhm.
a lot of organization. It's not like working one on one anymore. Now you're putting together all this program. There's a big responsibility. What your dad taught you early on in organization that had to help a lot. Tell us a little bit about what that looks like being the a hitting coordinator.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to think in systems, right? Like, how do we create a system that allows as many of our guys to develop in a way that we see fit ultimately? Um, I think the first thing you have to do is you've got to figure out what it is that you value, especially as an organization, as a group.
Mhm.
Um, if I feel strongly if you can't quantify it, if you can't measure it, then it's going to be pretty hard um, to teach it across um, a wide range of players. Maybe if you get a handful of coaches who can see it the exact same way as you can scale it that way, but that's being
That's
hopeful.
yeah,
Um, y- right, it doesn't happen that way.
right.
Um, I think after you identify that, you start to figure out, how can we create a system where, our guy at the complex, our guy in AAA, our guy in AA can all perform this. They know what's expected. They know how to identify what we're looking for. They know how to address, whatever these issues are. At the same time, I do think it's important that your staff have freedom. Our guys have to be able to try things and to use their creative mind as well. For me, I think it's really important to give people guidelines, um, but at the same time, if they need freedom and they can find different ways to accomplish stuff, ultimately, I think it's our job to be interested in results. And If we can find different ways that help the individuals, then I think that's probably what we should do.
Man, I got to tell you, we're talking about possibly 5 to 8 hitting coaches, right? That have either played the game, have a passion for hitting, have studied it, have gone through the analytics, have their own ideas. I would think, obviously, when somebody gets hired, you're trying to hire somebody that kind of has the same thinking as the coordinator. But is that one of the toughest things, is managing each individual hitting coach, because they're passionate about the way what they think sometimes also. How do you
Right.
filter through that?
Yeah. I think when you're in the hiring process with your group, and you won't get an opportunity to hire everybody. But
Sure.
when you are in the hiring process, I do think it's very important that your entire group interact with that person.
Mm.
We're looking for somebody who matches what we're trying to do. Um, we're looking for more people who are interested in our vision and can see our vision. Um, we're not looking for people to all be the same. That would be a mistake. We
Mm.
do like uniqueness. We do like different opinions, but we've got to be able to agree on the big picture stuff. And I think ultimately, if you can do that, then you're probably okay. At the same time, I do think strong direction from the top matters. Um, somebody's got to be in charge, and a direction has to be ultimately the direction that we want to
Mhm.
go in. Um, but once that's established, I do think it's really important that your creative brains can be creative. My dad would say this in terms of players, and I think it's just management in general. The more I've thought about this over my life, but um, when you're in charge, you've got to be able to make the box big enough for everybody. And if your best player or your most creative brain sometimes can wander off, um, well, as long as it fits what we are trying to do as a group, you've got to have enough space for that to happen. And I think that's kind of how you build a department, where there is vision, there is goals, there are objectives that we want to hit. But at the same time, if you can figure out a better way to optimize this process, then that's always got to be welcomed.
Yeah, and I would think, whether you're a GM, manager, GM, top hitting coach, hitting coordinator, going down to the coaches, I would think, yeah, you put that so well, man. I would also think that listening skills are important in this aspect, because when you all get together, right, it's good to listen, let people speak, like you said, be open, think outside the box. And then, let them challenge a little bit. But ultimately, that one coach at AAA, AA, single A, rookie ball, wherever they're at, they're with that player all the time.
Yes.
How does that work? Because you see the statistics, the analytics. I know there's a lot more involved. You're seeing that. They've got that information, but they also have the human information, what they're seeing live. You've got
100%.
video. Is there communication between yourself and every coach? How does that work?
Yeah. Absolutely is the answer.
Yeah.
As a coordinator, my perspective on anything that happens is different. I'm not the boots on the ground. I don't
Mhm.
know what the practice looked like. I don't necessarily know what the plan is going into the at bat.
Yeah.
What am I able to observe? Outcomes. I can observe what looks like intent during the game. But still, that's you know very much uh, up to my opinion, right? Um,
Sure.
I don't know. So I do think that's where questions are really helpful. Um, hey, I'm not there. What were you thinking here? What was the conversation here? What
Mm.
was X, Y, and Z? I think it's better to ask than assume, especially when you're viewing something strictly from the lens of the computer or video. Um, I think that's where for me, I've always tried to have conversations with our coaches first, and then our coaches and our players together. As staff members, I think it's important that we talk first. Let's get our game plan together. How do we want to address this? What happened? At that point, then we can loop in the player. Hey, I was watching the game yesterday, saw this at bat, blah, 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 blah. Talked with your coach, blah, 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 blah. You mind running me through what was going through your mind? What did you see? Why'd you make this decision? I think ultimately that's how you bring attention to stuff. At the same, like we're saying, you're not the boots on the ground, so it's not your
Mhm.
job to be the everyday coach, but you can bring more attention to things in that manner. And I think when you do it that way and you handle it with a conversation first with your staff, I'm not stepping on your toes. I think a big benefit that you get with the player is anytime that you can make a contact point, a touch point like that, it goes a long way in terms of your credibility. Man, you know, they're really seeing me. They care about me. You want your guys to feel like that. So I think that's a positive from that end as well. And then ultimately, if it's important enough to reach out, then, it's important to the org and you're making sure you're covering those bases as well.
Now, I've been there as a younger coach, and now you're dealing at a higher level. You got let's say you got a Hall of Fame guy or a major league player who's pretty big name, and he's the AAA hitting coach.
Mhm.
I would assume the communication is the same. The discussions are the same, or is it a little different with them?
Yeah, so I would say with your AAA guys, their challenges are different than your A ball
Mhm.
guys, just because of where they are in their career. I mean, when you're dealing with the A ball player, it's a lot more about development. I would say it's probably a lot more about like understanding what's important to us. You're still trying to get those messages across to the player, what's important to us as the organization. When your guys are in AAA, they're one phone call away.
Mm.
They're one roster move away from needing to help at the top. So I think that what that means is like you're dealing with probably not how to hit it as much, but like what's the right baseball play? What helps you to stick in the big leagues? What would your role be if you were on the club up top? When you're dealing with those kind of staff members, I mean, I got the opportunity to coach with our AAA hitting coach this past year in the big leagues.
Mm.
And like that's only possible because of a relationship that was already good, a process that Jordan and myself both already believed in, a process that we felt like we could both take to our players in the major leagues after Mother's Day, which we did. Um, and, Jordan's a player who had way more success in his career than I had in my career. But ultimately, it's not about who's right or who was the better player. We get our players to be better for our org.
Yeah, and now you're the assistant hitting coach at the major league level.
Yeah.
What's your daily routine look like and something like that?
Yeah. If we're at home, I'm getting to the yard probably around 9 o'clock. Um, I'll give myself 9 to 10 for personal time, workout time. 10 o'clock, we start watching video on the starter, getting
Wow.
thoughts together for the hitters meeting later that day. If it's the first game of the series, we're going to have a pre-series meeting. All departments will be in there. We're going to talk about, how do we think is the best game plan to win a series. Um, Cages will open up around 1 o'clock. We'll be in there until BP. After batting practice, we will go in. We'll have our hitters meeting. At that point, we're going to talk about what we think a good team plan is for that night. Um, we'll have side conversations as the day goes on, maybe some individual approach based conversations there. After that, we're back in the cage. I think that's probably our opportunity. What we've kind of decided maybe is our opportunity to work on, some down the road development with guys who maybe aren't in the game tonight. That'll be after BP. Maybe we're working on some landing better. Maybe we're working on loading better. Maybe we're working on, a specific pitch type, whatever it is, but something that we've identified for a guy. And we'll kind of do that until guys come in to get warmed up for the game. And then, a hitting coach is almost always in the cage. So we're in the cage until BP. We're in the cage after BP. We're in the cage until the game. We run down to the game right as first pitch is usually thrown.
And prior to a series, you guys have obviously hitters meeting with the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, is the pitching coach involved in that? And what's that discussion look like? You don't have to detail any specific hitters, but what's the typical discussion in the hitters meeting prior to the series?
Yeah. So what we did this past year, some was we had basically our analyst who works with our pitching stuff. Every, I don't know, I'd say couple months, kind of like an overview of how you would game plan for our guys. What do you see are their areas of weakness? How would you try to attack them? I think it's really important that hitters know where they're good, and maybe know where people might want to attack them. I think that helps you develop plan and approach ultimately. Those kind of conversations, I don't think they need to happen every day, but as you're being pitched, what are your trends? What are people doing? I think they're important. In terms of like a pre-series meeting, I think basically what we want to identify is, first of all, who are the starters? Do they have weapons? How is the matchup, basically? From there, I think you want to do the same thing for the bullpen. Who are the high leverage pitchers? When they're in trouble, who's coming in the game? You want to have a good feel for that. At the end of the game, who are they going to bring to close a tight game? Yeah, usage matters, but you kind of can do enough homework to answer those questions coming into a series. If they go to a certain guy who is our best pinch hit option, I think that matters. You don't want to be answering those questions in the 12 seconds between pitch clock violations. There's not enough time for that. So you do need to think about those kind of scenarios ahead of time. And then ultimately, if you have to make a move, like what becomes the defensive move, I think that matters as well.
Nick, you see a lot of times on television, I'm sure coaches would love to hear this and people listening, a hitter makes an out, or even sometimes when they don't make an out, maybe even hit a home run. They go down and you see them on the iPad, they're looking at something. What are they analyzing, whether they did well or did really well? They're analyzing something, obviously.
Yeah. Different things for different guys. I would say, one of the things that I want to stay away from more times than not is if I can direct the conversation away from a guy's mechanics, I probably want to. I think with the iPad, that's usually the first-ish thing that comes up. I mean, you're looking at a video of your swing, right? So, like, how'd I do it? What did it look like? It's important. It matters. But we're probably not going to learn how to hit in the middle of this game. And that's usually my point. I think one of the things that can be most beneficial is, did I swing at a strike? Sometimes your brain lies to you, especially about 50-50 balls, those close ones. So that's something that I do think is extremely beneficial to look at. Did I swing at a strike? Um, should I have ended the at bat sooner? Should I have swung out a pitch or that I took? Um, After that, I think it's cool to watch it a couple times. Maybe it helps you feel something. Maybe it helps you relive something. But I do think it's also important to get back to the game as quickly as possible. Um, with that being said, I will say, like having the ability to watch a pitcher's video in the dugout, I think more times than not, people maybe are looking at the other pitcher. Are they tipping something? Um, what does it look like when he goes to the curveball? That's usually where maybe more people are spending more time.
That's what I love about the playoffs and the World Series now. You've got some analysts, like John Smoltz, who I love listening to him because, he was a pitcher, Hall of Famer. He's telling you how he would pitch to this guy, why, what happened in that last pitch. You're all, and then you look at Yamamoto. He's done with it with the inning, and he's watching whatever he's watching. He's learning constantly. I saw some things on social media on that. I got to ask you this because I'm always curious. I fell into this trap when I was younger. I came from a different generation. It was mechanics, fundamentals. And I know we need to get back to that a little bit, especially at the younger levels. We're getting away. We're playing too much now instead of working on some fundamentals. I get that part. But at the big league level and even at just professional level, the swing's the swing at one time. Okay, they're going to work on that. But like you said, you could overanalyze that part. I would think, just from my perspective, I would think the two most important things, if I had to focus on two things, and I want to get your input on this or your perspective on this. One, if I can't see it, I have no idea how you're going to hit it. I don't know how you're going to time it. I don't know how you're going to do anything. Okay. Even with the best swing in the world. I got to tell you a quick one. I worked with Ernie Banks at a batting cage a few times. Okay. I don't, where Ernie Banks is. I know you're young.
Absolutely.
Okay, but you're young, so you never know. I always got to ask because you're like, Ernie Banks, who's that? I've done that too. So trust me, I've said, well, I never heard of that guy. He said I had the best swing he's ever seen. It's coming from a big name. I couldn't hit. I had 210 in college, so it didn't matter what the swing was. But the vision aspect, because I'm curious how much you guys work on that in the season, spring training, all that, and then the mental aspect, because again, I'm using me as an example. Mentally, I was terrible. And I felt if I was good or decent in those two areas, at least I'd be a better hitter. I didn't say I was going to make it at high levels. I'd be a better hitter. And I see those two things married together. If you don't have those two, I'm not sure how you produce.
Yeah. I think you're pretty spot on right there, right? Like the visual skills of hitting, probably one of the least talked about parts. People are going to talk about timing always.
Yeah.
Basically we commonly talk about, like when you're in the box, it comes down to two things, and this isn't entirely true, but space or time. Were you late or did you not move well? And I do think that it's easy to simplify things to that. But if you don't see it and you can't recognize what it is, it's a lot easier to move late or maybe not put the appropriate move on what the pitch actually is. So that for me probably is the third aspect right there. I think it's extremely important that our guys are working on different visual strategies in the off season. Soft focus to fine focus. Where should you look to be able to pick up the ball given where the arm slot is? I think that's one of the things that we get to see in the big leagues, right? Arm slots coming from all over. We should be directing our hitters' eyes to start in the right spot to be able to pick up the window to see the ball best. I think that's extremely important. Can you see the spin on the ball? We get different shapes in general in Denver than people get at sea level. So I do think it's important that even as we talk about adjusting the shapes and handling shapes, it's even more important for our guys to understand, well, where are we? If we're in LA and we're facing Otani or Yamamoto, the Yamamoto's curveball is going to be even slower and seem even bigger in LA than it does in Denver. And Otani's sweeper is going to seem even wider in LA than it does in Denver. So where are we? What do we expect the ball to do? Are our eyes in the right place? Do we have the right discipline? Extremely important. And then for me, like I said, those other two things, right? Like space, how did you move on that pitch? And time. If I'm not on time, I'm probably not going to hit it.
That's interesting too, because I've always asked this, and I had a great conversation with Reggie Smith has been with us on ISG for a lot of clinics. In fact, he's heading to France, folks. If you're listening, he will be in France. Check out the ISG website, isgbaseball.com. I got to believe, because when you're looking at hitters, just on television too, I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm sure you guys do analytically and all that. But I got to believe most hitters are off time more often than they are on time. In certain situations, could be an off speed, but whatever it is. And they've got to do something different. Big league hitters know how to do this. Talk a little bit about if you're off time and you got 2 strikes and I don't know, the pitch is outside, but it's a strike. And how do you get to that pitch if you're off time is my point.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you can cover the entire plate. So I'm starting with that. However we develop our approach and craft our approach against a specific pitcher in an at bat, we're saying we're willing to live and die by what comes with that plan. Yeah, we want to be able to cover and be adjustable over where we expect the majority of the balls to be. Sometimes we want to be adjustable to a one spot because we're taking a chance. And I think any honest hitting coach would tell you sometimes we take chances. It's a part of it.
Sure.
I guess is the question with like 2 strikes, how do you be the most adjustable?
Sure.
I would say, well, adjustability is usually going to work from fast to slow. So landing earlier usually will give guys more agility. If you haven't landed, you can't swing. I will say that for most guys. And then, for me, adjustability works generally from up to down in the zone. If I'm ready to cover the top of the zone, I can adjust down. If I'm looking down and I get a heater at the top, it's probably not going to work. So I do think with those situations, landing earlier with top of the zone posture could be a good way to go for somebody. But, ultimately, I think this is one of the more interesting things about hitting. Some people need less time and some people need more time.
Right.
There are absolute Ferraris that have a hard time waiting, and there are Mack trucks that have no 0 to 60, and they got to get it going early to be, at the same spot at the same time. So I think part of that is understanding who's your guy. But like I said, generally speaking, I think adjustability is fast to slow and up to down.
You know what? And folks that are listening, obviously hitting can, you can go on for 4 hours just on one area. I know you guys talk, with your hitting coaches a lot. There's a lot behind the scenes here, and I really appreciate your answer because I know it's not easy with some of this because it's a broader question of, which can be one topic in itself on a podcast. But I'll tell you what, I think as we get it, you see hitting out there, you wonder a lot of it, like when you have a hitter, especially at the big league level, who's struggling, what does that look like? Are you going to them? Are they coming to you? Where do you start? And again, broad question, but maybe an example of one of those areas.
Yeah. Yeah, so if we got a guy who's struggling, I definitely want to start a conversation. Um, I want to bring a guy in, and one of the things I like to do first is like just watch some video with him. Let's watch the at bats. Um, because what that allows is an avenue for there to be dialogue in both directions. Hey, I saw this. All right, well, what'd you see? And you're looking at it together at the same time. At that point in time, I want to ask the player usually, well, what do you want to do about it? Your guys aren't unaware. They know
Yeah,
when
exactly.
it's
They know
things
they're hitting
aren't good.
192.
100%. So hey, what do you think we should do about this? I think it's really important that your players have ownership in their career. Big leagues, minor leagues, it doesn't matter. If the player doesn't feel strongly about the direction of the course of action, it's probably not going to work that great.
Mm.
So yeah, now we're talking about it, and we've opened up a avenue for conversation. At that point in time, I want to bring in data. And once again, we said we've got to believe in something. So we do have a pretty solid um, backbone in terms of advanced metrics that we believe in, process metrics, not just, what is your batting average or your WOBA or uh, your WAR, but what does your ball flight look like? Is it hard and in the air? Is it on the ground? Is it soft contact? Is it, what's your ball flight to each field? What's your EV to each field? We think that we can piece together basically what's truly happening through that kind of stuff. We'll look into swing decisions. Um, are we getting pitches in the strike zone, fastballs, breaking balls? Where does it look like the issue is? We'll look into things like once you get a strike, what are you doing? Are we fouling off pitches? Is there end zone miss? Is it coming on a particular pitch? Are we aggressive enough early? What's our first pitch swing rate look like? How often are we in two strike plate appearances? We're gonna build a picture with a set of process numbers. um, we have this meeting with our players, not just when they struggle, but also when things are going well. Um, let's build a picture with process numbers. And once again, we've decided that we believe in this stuff coming into this. So, um, how are we doing from an objective standpoint? Um, what we're doing working or not? um how is our practice set up? One of the things that I think a lot of people fall into the trap of is building a practice that's comfortable. I
Hmm.
do think there should be room for comfort in practice, but for me, I'm more interested in, are we practicing the things that the game says we need to practice? And if we can build that picture from a set of objective metrics, then now that doesn't allow for emotion, that doesn't allow for a coach to subjectively just see it wrong, which can happen.
Hmm.
um, it keeps everybody accountable, and I think we're able to build a better practice schedule. For me, I think the secret is always the practice, and then from there, I'm going to tell the player, let's commit to something for 2 weeks and see if it shows up in the game.
Hey, Nick, this has been awesome, man. Just a couple more things, and then we'll let you get to work. As far as game speed, once they've gotten that rhythm going pretty good, what do you guys do as far as game speed? Let's say you have a week off, like take the playoffs. You're a week off. Um, I know you can face live hitting and all that, but is there anything else you can do game speed if you don't have the pitching aspect?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the question of hitting, right? How do we
Yeah,
make practice look like the game?
yeah.
Um, I think for us, it's about like a lot of different looks. We like machines.
Hmm.
Um, we will mix machines and arms together. We'll mix angles. One thing that I think angles allow you to do is You don't necessarily have to manipulate speed. If you manipulate angle, you can increase pressure alone. Just a variable. We were blessed to have the trajectory machine in Denver. That's something that a lot of our guys like a lot, where you see the pitcher, you see the ball, you can hit a mix, you can hit a specific pitch type. We've got eye pitch machines that mix things up. I love live BPs.
Yeah.
It's not always the easiest thing in the world to get guys, to throw live BPs. Pitchers have their own schedule, and we get that. But if they're throwing, we're hitting for sure. I do think space and distance in the cage is a variable that can be manipulated. With flips, one thing that we like, and this maybe is counterintuitive, but sometimes when we're facing big flamethrowers, we increase the space in the flips and make it slower.
Slower.
We're trying to get our guys to get to positions that we think are important. Fill your positions, get there, hold them. If we can create those same positions in the game and not necessarily rush through our moves, sometimes guys are able to slow the baseball down that way.
That's awesome. I love that. And what about batting practice? Anything changing since you played, and now anything changing BP?
Yeah. So when I first started coaching in 21 with the Rockies, one thing I heard a lot was that you would never see a machine on the field in the big leagues. And
Right.
every night there's one in a lot of different places. And, not that big league players don't still hit arm BP. They do. I do think it's important. But you're seeing more and more guys challenge with shapes. We've, with the Rockies, experimented with some different baseball types. The light, the dimple balls on the field give you bigger shapes. That's something that we know we have to deal with more so than other teams with, our travel in and out of elevation. We have hit angles. We've hit, we talked about manipulating space. We've had the L screen up tight. We've had it further away. Whatever it is that we're targeting, we want to create a look that challenges that, and we want to be creative about it. And our players have been really good about getting outside of their comfort zone and looking for solutions that are, maybe different than what the traditional says.
Awesome. Love it, man. Hey, listen, I know I took up your time. I appreciate it. And I look forward to being with you in Korea. I think that's going to be a great time. Look forward to meeting you in person. Thanks for doing the show, man.
Absolutely, Pete. Great conversation, and looking forward to the trip.
All right, folks, that's Nic Wilson. He is the assistant hitting coach at the Major League level with the Colorado Rockies. He'll be heading with us, ISG Baseball Korean Coaching Conference, December 3rd and 4th. We'll get there a day early. Check out Korea. Check out Seoul. It's going to be a great time. We got great hosts. Again, folks, thanks for joining us. I'm Pete Caliendo, host of Baseball Outside the Box. Remember, stay safe, be healthy. God bless you. And we'll see you on the next show.